Hey guys, welcome back to News to the Science, where we discuss comics, movies, games, and more. And today I got a review for The Falcon and the Winter Soldier, Episode 1, titled New World Order. And basically, it opens up with the Falcon being left with the shield. We hear a brief voiceover of Old Man Cap talking to Sam Wilson when Sam says, "Hey, this feels like it belongs to somebody else." And we hear, of course, Steve Rogers say, "It's yours." And now we're left with Sam just looking at the shield, wondering, like what to do with the shield, because he has like this feeling like that the shield does not belong to him, that he feels like he's not ready to wield the shield and, just take on the mantle of Captain America. So we see him actually delivering the shield to a museum because the shield technically is government property. Captain America was government property, and so was this shield. So he basically delivers the shield to this museum to put it out on display with his original uniform that he wore in Captain America: The First Avenger. We see all these I guess you can say monuments, and we see these in memory of Captain America, banners and stuff like that, like all his history throughout this museum. And I'm actually wearing the shirt, right, by the way, to commemorate the moment, commemorate at least Captain America. So I kind of figured it was appropriate to wear this shirt and pretty much celebrate. But overall, like, this episode has it's got a really strong opening. It sets the narrative from the very beginning. We're greeted with Falcon, who's working for the military now and out to look for Batroc, who actually made an appearance from the Winter Soldier and reappears again in this first episode. It seems like Batroc is just one of those villains who gets easily caught, because he was like just caught at the very beginning of Winter Soldier, and then we see him again being caught at the very beginning of the Falcon and the Winter Soldier, who was actually trying to escape to Libya because it was a border that the Falcon could not cross since he's a U.S. citizen. And he managed to catch him on time, with huge explosions and flying and all these maneuvers. It's just crazy. Like, the cinematography is gorgeous for one thing. And it's also extremely difficult to distinguish this from an actual Marvel movie to a Marvel television series that's on Disney Plus. So obviously the production value is there, and I'm glad at least we're able to we're unable to distinguish the difference between a series and a movie, because it is within the Marvel canon and it's part of that continuity. So it's great. So basically, this episode is not exactly a slow burner, kind of like how WandaVision, the first two episodes, were. So if you're looking for something with high pace, like action, then you will not get disappointed. I'll guarantee you that. It really sets the narrative straight forward. It opens up with a banger, like with intense action and like high intensity, very adrenaline fueling intensity. And like I said before, it opens up with Sam Wilson picking up exactly where we left off, and at the very end of Avengers Endgame, where Captain America basically just hands over the mantle and the shield to Sam Wilson at the very end. And Sam Wilson is just like having a difficult time just accepting this mantle, accepting the shield, accepting this kind of symbol, because it is a huge responsibility, but he feels like he's not ready. But we all know, and we figure at one point, at least at some point during the series, at the very end specifically, that he's going to carry on and take on the mantle of Captain America like he does in the comics. So at least that's a given. That's an obvious given right there, and that's gonna eventually happen. We all know that's gonna happen. But aside from the obvious, yeah, I mean, that's where it picks off. And we don't see Bucky and Sam Wilson together. And speaking of Bucky, speaking of which, we go over to Bucky, and he's going through a few things himself. And this, just letting you know, this series takes place literally like 6 months after the events of Avengers Endgame. And Bucky is going through a few things himself. He's going through actual mandated therapy that's required of him to do, because he's been pardoned of his crimes. And his crimes weren't exactly his per se, where he was actually brainwashed by an evil organization, and he took on the mantle of the Winter Soldier. He was a brainwashed assassin titled the Winter Soldier, committing these crimes, killing people and whatnot. But he was easily pardoned because he was brainwashed, and it wasn't him. It was all under the influence of Hydra. So he's basically attending these mandated therapy sessions, talking about his problems. He's having nightmares. He also meets up a guy named Yuri, who's just doing these things for him. Like, he's buying him lunch, he's visiting him, he's hanging out with him, kind of like just to make him feel better, because This man, Yuri, a Japanese man who lost his son, as it turns out, was the actual son that Bucky Barnes, Winter Soldier, actually killed, and he feels like he has to make amends, and that's like the overall theme of his character arc throughout this series. He's making amends for like the wrong he's been doing. You know, he's going around saying that, hey, as part of his program, he needs to make amends and say that he's no longer the Winter Soldier, and he doesn't. He's not about that life anymore. So part of making that amends is to actually stick around with this guy named Yuri, make him feel comfortable, buy him lunch and stuff, and treat him well, because he's coping with the fact that he killed somebody under the influence of Hydra, but not knowing that he did it, and then he found out, and now he's doing what he can to like at least repent for his sins. He has like this sense of guilt on him. So Bucky is kind of like, he's like Steve Rogers. He's 106 years old. He's out in the world. He's alone. He has no friends, no family to connect to. And Sam Wilson's trying to actually reach out to him, but he's not answering the calls. He kind of is a loner at this point. He's just keeping to himself. He's greeted he's greeted by this gentleman, Yuri. He actually introduces some girl who actually recommends Bucky to go out with, just so he can actually have a life. Bucky's a very lonely guy, so he needs to go out and see the world and meet people and make new friends. And that's pretty much what happens in this episode. Sort of a slow burner, but not really. But with the action like intensity turned up and dialed up to like at least 10 or 9, we're introduced to the evil organization that's going to be the main antagonists of the series, called the Flag Smashers. They're briefly mentioned at towards the first half of the episode, but they fully make themselves known towards the very end of the episode. Back to Sam Wilson. Sam Wilson's having to deal with his sister. Because of the blip, these people have been absent. So Sam and Bucky were actually snapped when Thanos snapped his fingers. Sam Wilson and Bucky Barnes were like the first few to go. They were missing during the 5-year gap of the blip. So when the blip happened and all these billions of people just reappeared after 5 years later, Sam Wilson has this sister who's been holding it down with kids. She's widowed. She has a business that she's running, and Sam is doing everything he can to help his own sister by trying to find a bank loan to help her out, pick up exactly where she left it. Because people can't build a business or continue exactly easily right where they left off after they've been missing for 5 years. So Sam and his sister Sarah own this boat, and Sarah's thinking about selling it, but Sam is reluctant about that idea because they grew up together on this boat that they operate, and Sarah's trying to find a loan at least to help her get her back up on her feet and with her business. But Sam is doing everything he can to help her sister out. We even find out that during his time as an Avenger, he's still an Avenger, but during his time as an Avenger, he wasn't being paid. He's doing this out of the sheer goodwill of his heart. Really, that's what superheroes do. They do this out of the goodwill. It's free, obviously. They don't get paid. It kind of answers the question, how is it that these people were making a living, or how do they actually get income? And then to the response of the sisters, well, you can't really make a living or an income when you don't exist for 5 years, when you haven't existed for 5 years. So it was pretty, it was a good wink and nod and a good way to answer the question to a lot of audiences. We find out that the only income that Sam Wilson actually makes is from the military when he does these missions. But aside from that, being an Avenger was kind of a thing that he did out of goodwill, and as it should be. That's what heroes do. So, overall, it's a great episode. It's a great start. It basically opens up and shows us exactly where these people are at in their lives, what they're dealing with. It really breaks it down really well. It doesn't hand anything to us. The cinematography was very different from what we've seen from the Marvel Cinematic Universe. And what I mean by that is there was these moments where there was a lot of close-up shots of the face, especially with Bucky Barnes and this therapist that he was having this, session with. Overall, it's a great episode. It's a great opener. It lays everything down for you. It sets up the narrative and what's to come in future episodes. And this episode ends with the announcement of the brand new Captain America, John Walker, aka the US agent. You know that he's going to be a very corrupt Captain America, at least a very corrupt, darker version of Captain America. Eventually, at one point, Bucky and Sam Wilson are going to have to actually face him and fight him, just to, I guess, take that, like retrieve that mantle. Just and I think that mantle is gonna go back to Sam Wilson, Falcon. So it's probably gonna end up him being the new Captain America, but still sporting the Falcon attire, but more of a patriotic design. And I can see it coming. That's the biggest. I think that's like the feeling that I have, that Sam Wilson's gonna have a brand new attire, but he's still gonna be the Falcon, but like, you know, Captain America with wings. But aside from that, yep, it sets up the whole Flag Smashers, the U.S. agent. I can't wait to see how that story develops with the U.S. agent. I can't wait to see how the story between, like, you know, the relationship between Bucky and, of course, Yuri develops, and what, like, sort of revelations there's going to be. I mean, like, we already have the revelation that Bucky killed the son, but I want to see how that unfolds. Like, I want to see how where the relationship goes between Bucky and Yuri. And aside from that, pretty strong opener. Like I said before at the very beginning, I really enjoyed the episode. If you guys have not seen the episode already, spoiler warning, obviously. Sorry, a little late mentioning that. But aside from that, definitely check it out if you have Disney Plus. Check out the Falcon and the Winter Soldier. It's been 2 weeks since we've had any new MCU content, and that was WandaVision. Now we got the Falcon and the Winter Soldier. So definitely go ahead and check it out when you guys get a chance. And with all that being said, that's my review for episode 1. What did you guys think? Comment down below. Be sure to like, comment, subscribe, click on bell notifications so you all don't miss anything. And as always, I will see you all in the next comic panel.